All right, folks, we roll along. So let's move into our midday keynote here. So just tracking along, we had, I thought, a very inspirational example from a brand marketer from Kim Cadillac at J&J this morning. Showed some very interesting ways of connecting with this Gen Z audience. I loved Kim's presentation for all its raft of really rich examples and sort of a no fear, no regrets attitude that they have at J&J when it comes to these things. Like, let's just jump in the pool and try some and build institutional knowledge, institutional fearlessness, and muscle memory as to how to address Gen Z. And then, of course, Katie, I thought was terrific as always. Iconoculture is really on the cutting edge of understanding what Gen Z is all about, and I think armed us with some good language, building blocks, and tools. And both Kim and Katie, I think, asked some really good introspective questions, right? Not what are you saying to consumers, but what do they say to each other about your brand when you're not there? What are you helping them achieve, and what are your verbs? What does your brand stand for? And I think that's a good segue to our lunch and keynote speaker, who is Professor Sasha Strauss. As I like to say, he's the most conflicted man in Los Angeles on the third Saturday of October. That's, of course, when UCLA plays USC. He is a professor at both business schools. But he is also managing director of Innovation Protocol, which he'll talk a little bit about in his presentation, which is a really excellent and interesting marketing brand strategy firm. He, like many of us in the room, has an agency background at places like Chiat/Day and literally travels the world working with, helping folks like yourselves on thousands of top brands really understand what is required in this era with these tools in this day of new normal to build a brand and make the cash register ring for Generation C. So with that, I know you will enjoy, and please give a warm welcome to our friend Sasha Strauss.
Thank you, Jim. Hi, everyone. So, to make this a little easier on you, I've been on planes constantly the last 3 weeks. I was in China last week and Phoenix and such. So when Jim asked me to present, I was like, well, I'm going to doodle, and I'm going to do it on airplanes, and that's going to be my presentation. So here is my storyboard, clearly working through content I'm going to share with you today. And I did this because when I'm not working in Innovation Protocol, building brands globally, I have two side jobs. I travel the world as a speaker, and then I also teach, as Jim had said, at business schools. And what's incredible about these audiences is how different they are. My students, I started teaching in high school, and 10 years later I'm teaching MBAs. And what's incredible about those audiences is that they have been digital since I've met them. They have always been thinking in this new normal sort of way. Whereas when I'm speaking to these executive audiences at these huge conferences, like, a corporation will get all of their customers together, or specialists in a particular sector will fly in all of their buyers and sellers and retailers to sort of educate them on new marketing tactics. When I'm speaking to those audiences, they have a completely different mindset, absolutely different, like a dichotomy between the students and the executives. And what I often find is that these executives are like, how do I sell to these kids? How do I get these students to buy from me, And they're just launching all of their weapons at these audiences. And the students, chilling on the beach are like, I get bored easily. I'm not going to focus on all of this nonsense. And it becomes like this battle between them. In fact, you sort of, you feel them contentiously going against one another. They're using things like, well, if you were just more interesting, and if you would just pay attention, it's this back and forth war between these two parties. And you can call them millennials and baby boomers if you want. I'm just suggesting that any of my students under 27 fit into this student category I'm suggesting, and all of the executives who've been building businesses for 30 years by hand, laying the bricks in these amazing organizations, they have different mentalities. And it's our job as brand stewards to bring them together according to some common philosophy. So remember that these students are speaking digital, and these executives are frantically with their PowerPoints trying to figure out, holy crap, what are we supposed to do now? We're totally confused. We're super worried about our target demos. How are we supposed to fix this problem? And instead of working towards a resolution, it's like Congress, they're both like, no. No, I'm sorry, you're not good enough for me, you're not smart enough for me, you're not acting the way that I want you to. And so there's this literally, like there's this impasse between my speaking tour audiences and then my graduate students and all of those that follow them. And I think we can learn a lot from this dichotomy because it really informs what you're going to do as marketers in the new normal. So, question I often get from people like my mother is, what do we, okay, fine, there have been other generations though, right? I mean, the baby boomers and the millennials are just a current example of this disparity. There have been plenty of other generations with differences of opinions in the past. What did they gather around? What was their common thing? And the answer is, well, they had religions. They had corporations and their academic institutions, the nonprofits they associated with. That was where our allegiances lied. We sat down and we were communed around our faith or around our alumni programming, etc. And this was all fine and dandy. And then, social media shows up and just blows open the kimono on all of these organizations. They're just standing there like, holy shit, what am I supposed to do? All that we are and everything that we've ever been is now on the table. And so all of these classic corporations, institutions, nonprofits, for-profits are startled by this scenario that social media has brought, specifically because it is abundantly clear to all of us that they totally overcommitted and have absolutely underdelivered. I mean, there is not a faith, there's not an academic institution, there's not a sports team, there's not a government currently not under scrutiny. Look at the European Union right now. Let's take the 10 civil wars going on in the Middle East. Everything is on the table for conversation. And because these subjects like faith and corporations where we worked, etc., were the topics that we socialized around in the past, and now they're up for discussion, we're all missing a little something. There's something that we as consumers and buyers and decision makers absolutely need. Am I implying that all of these institutions and corporations are bad? No, they're not bad. But we're here to talk about, quote, the new normal. They were built for the time right before now. Not now, not this new normal situation we're in. They were just built for the time right before now. So that gives us permission to philosophize and extend our understanding of brand in a new way, right? So I don't think that the students and the executives are opposed to one another. I actually think they're both just really sad. They're both kind of stuck in the middle of a painful situation where they're like, damn it, what happened to the banking industry? Where did all of this come from, right? They're trying to decide if they're proud of their governments, and they question it every single day. This is creating a pain inside of us. We all feel it. You know this. You know this to be the truth. So is this a problem? I think that it's a problem because if we cannot passionately believe about our faith, our corporation that we work for, or the nonprofit that we've been donating to for so long, oh my God, then what's left for us to believe in? What's left for us to believe in the new normal? So your reaction should be, well, why do we need to believe in stuff? Like, why as we as branders, why do we have to even care about this thing? And I'll tell you, after the last 18 years in this business, with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, yes, we need shelter. Yes, we need safety. Yes, we need food. But my God, there is a pie slice reserved for something to believe in. Like something for us to emotionally attach our consciousness, our soul, our passions to. All of you have one. All of you have a subject like this. And all I'm suggesting is that it is something that you can cherish, you can watch diligently, you can brag about it to your friends. It excites you when you hear about it, right? We all have this thing. And not only do we have this thing, but it manifests in so many different ways. Like, for example, somebody has their favorite sports team. I mean, what is the New York Giants? Other than some dudes we're paying to destroy their bodies, and we're like throwing costumes on them and telling them to like represent New York. I mean, what is the team in that grand scheme of things? It's literally just something that we can believe in, right? We can like emotionally get behind and pray for and get enthused about. And you recognize that this has been present throughout history. We have always had these like subjects to commune around. So what I'm imposing on you is, okay, who's going to fill the void? Who's going to fill the void that these religions and corporations and institutions, which are in the midst of transition, who's going to fill the void that they left? Well, fortunately, we can turn to them because they figured this out brilliantly. You think that they were messing around this whole time? No. Some of the smartest people in the world ran these organizations. All right, what can we learn from them? Well, the first thing that we've learned from them is that they recognize that they first need to anoint a topic. Okay, we are going to talk about God or gods or whatever your taste is. Great, common topic. Next, this is the belief system we practice in relation to the God. Our religion, our way of eating and talking and communing and sharing and philanthropizing, all of these things together, that is our religion. That is just a practice applied to a common topic, right? Same thing for, call it public governance. How should we manage our populace? Well, there's a philosophy on that, and my political party is how I want this all to operate. That's just a system applied to a topic. I mean, let's make it real simple. I'm literally talking about a topic and then like all of the stuff that swirls around that topic to make it really palpable, really exciting and emotionally stimulating to us as an audience. And you can literally pick anything. I mean, the topic can be a specific person. It can be a place. It can be a thing, an object, an item, a subject. I'm serious about how simple this can be, and all you're technically trying to do here is apply some type of belief system to it. Like, this is the practice, this is the method, this is the way. These words seem gentle, and they're supposed to be gentle, but like, just pause for a second as a marketer, shift back into I'm a human, okay? And ask yourself, doesn't this sound right? Like, yeah, there's the method of the place. You know, there's the how of the it. I mean, just two simple words, but you see what I'm talking about, right? There's the topic, and then there's the way about the topic, and that's actually what brands are built on. So let's take this common topic as an example, all right? So I'm suggesting to you that your audiences, your polar audiences, absolutely need a common topic, something that they both can care about and pay attention to and really sort of emotionally engage. And don't come to me and say, well, they've got it. They've got debt. We can talk about debt, or we can talk about how we still don't know how to define marriage in this country, right? I mean, think about all of the topics that we're throwing on the table as common subject matter we're all supposed to engage. These things hurt. This is not what I want. I don't want to talk to you about our enemies or our borders or any of these things. Yes, they are common topics, but I don't want to build my belief system around these things. I want something that we can all totally share and care about and build emotional equity in our own individual way. And it can't just be the topic. As I'm suggesting, there has to be a belief system around that topic, all right? When I say a belief system, it's a combination of things. It is your long-term intentions as an organization, the specific words that you use, how these pictures represent the emotional energies you're trying to broadcast. These are our shapes. These actions, the actions we take are not accidental. They are synchronous, and they are supporting this belief system. In this belief system, you might even define how your teams work, how this philosophy and perspective informs the way you design products. All of you should be nodding because you get this. You as a consumer know the difference between an organization who's like, here's a product, buy it, you know, just punching you in the face with advertising. Buy it, I'm gonna interrupt you right now. I want you to buy this. And you're like, what? I mean, come on, right? It gets to a point where it's clear that they don't even care, okay? So, at this point in your comprehension, you're recognizing that there is a void in the belief ecosystem. The organizations that used to fill that belief need for us are in transition. So in that void, I'm suggesting to you that the modern brand is required to identify the topic that matters most, and then apply a belief system to that topic. And it fits beautifully into that gaping hole that was left by these institutions we used to be so in love with. So, how does this work? Well, first and foremost, you can't just tell me, great, Sasha, here's our topic, and here's our little belief system around it, because the fact is, people will not buy from an organization they've never heard of. So you need to be a little proactive, right? You have to kind of get ahead of yourself and start talking to people. Take a nonprofit, right? You're not going to donate to a nonprofit you don't know. So the nonprofit's like, well, I guess we better get out there, you know, we better talk. Okay, so like, what are we going to talk about, right? That should be the real question. Like, what are we going to talk about when we ultimately get these individuals' attention? And what a lot of organizations choose to do is make up an answer. They're like, not only do you not know us, but we're going to create an entire fabrication, and you're going to become in love with this fabrication. Let's take McDonald's as an example, okay? I'm going to take some out-of-work dude, and I'm going to put him in a clown costume. I'm going to tell you his name is Ronald McDonald, and he's got this fat purple friend and this other guy over here who steals hamburgers, okay? Cool. That's what we are. This is what we fight for. This is the energy that we project, and it works. It works in a lot of situations, but it becomes your sole marketing strategy. So what a lot of organizations are doing now is they're like, well, let's find a celebrity. Let us attach ourselves to another brand and leech equity from their awareness and comprehension. Oh, no, let's take a sports stadium in a city that has nothing to do with our company, and let's put our name on the sports stadium. That's going to create so much goodwill amongst the populace. All you're doing is you're taking your brand, which you're not building, and you're just bolting it on to some other brand you have no control over. Okay, this is not brand building. Not only is it not brand building, but eventually, we as consumers, we as shareholders, we as donors are going to come around and be like, okay, thank you for all of this conjecture and storytelling. It's all great. Thank you for all the characters. They're funny. Thank you. But okay, well, who are you really? You know, where's the nonfiction in this? You're going to reach this fork in the road in your personal life and your professional life, and you're going to have to ask yourself, should someone inquire, what are the things that I'm going to stand up for that are not just the outfit that I'm wearing today? Great. You know what most companies say to us as consumers? Well, we're the biggest. We are the fastest. We are the most smartest. I mean, let's take the mobile phone carrier wars that are going on right now. I mean, have you seen the Verizon AT&T back and forth? Like, you know, ours is biggest. I mean, it's just this constant debate back and forth between these two institutions. And we as consumers are like, I'm not even listening to this anymore. We have completely removed our emotional connection because all this is a war of words. So what happens when the war of words is no longer powerful enough? Well, what do as marketers? Well, we have focus groups. We take consumers who are never focused or in a group when they buy our shit, okay? Never focused or in a group when they buy our stuff. And then we boil down, you know, we ask them questions about our company, you know, why do you buy our stuff and what do you hope it will be? And then we take all these disparate beliefs and we boil them down to some like common denominator marketing strategy. Again, this is not brand building, and that is not a conveyance of the truth. That is just you trying to figure out for this second in the history of your business what you can say so someone will pay attention. And I'm suggesting that ultimately, everybody's going to do this. All nations, all countries, all corporations, all faiths, all teams, and not only all of those organizations in their own right, but what about their constituents? Every employee, every donor, every shareholder is just going to be taxing all of us as consumers with this awareness that they want us to have about them being the biggest, fastest, smartest, sharpest, coolest, longest. Pick the estest word you want and apply it to the truth behind your business. We're laughing because we recognize how silly this ultimately becomes because we are on the defense. When I flew into the airport this morning, God, how many airlines are trying to sell me credit cards right now? You guys are with me. You just walk through the airport like this. You're like, no, dude, I don't need your stupid credit card, right? Everywhere you go, someone is not only trying to get your attention, they're being violent about it. Okay? Really, really disruptive in that nature. So the question I'm posing back to you is, let's just pretend for some incredible reason, you get past all of our defenses. Okay? Our heart and mind is just sitting before you. We literally turn to you and say, hi, I'm listening. What would you like me to know? I'm listening, company. I'm listening, government. I'm listening, nonprofit. I'm paying attention. What do you want me to know? What do you want me to care about? And if your answer is, well, we're the biggest, fastest, sharpest, smartest, longest, etc., well, now you're going to sound like not only everyone else, but you're leaving me. You're leaving me in the void. Because I can't care about those things. I can't even quantify those things. So if a consumer turns to you and asks this question, I hope that you have an answer. And the answer I want you to try on is a combination of a common topic that your audiences are all curious about, and a belief system that intersects with it. That's the perfect answer to this question in the new normal. In an age of violent transparency, this is what you need to make your voice about. Instead of saying, oh yeah, we're this huge company, and we like being a huge company in our glass tower, it's more so about, look, this is the topic we believe most in, and this is our community that fights for the belief systems around that topic. This is available to all of you, and not only is it available to all of you, it turns out that in the study of great brands, this is actually the recipe for building powerful, long-term market impactors. Authenticity, that authentic trajectory, that definition of who you are and why you matter and why you apply those philosophies to a topic, that happens to be the magical recipe for the strongest brands in the world. Welcome. Welcome to this new era, right? So here are the rules. I recognize that this is challenging, so let's stick with me for a second and acknowledge I'm asking you for a topic and a belief system that supports that topic. That's your brand. So I'm going to suggest that there's probably 7 little practices that you can apply to your brand building that will work in this new normal. All right, great. Key word in new normal is new. We no longer get to assume anything. I don't care how many years you've been in market research. Congratulations on being awesome. This is new. This is new competition. These are new customers. I mean, let's take this disruptive innovation that's going on. I mean, classic organizations thought they knew their competition. Clearly they did not, right? Good. So all of us has permission now. We now have a hall pass. We are allowed to make no assumptions about our competition, the composition of our markets, who the cohorts are, what crises may occur. This should be exciting to you. Great. Doors blown wide open. There are no rules. This is absolutely the wild, wild west. Great. We assume nothing in the new normal. Next rule of engagement here is we do not talk to our customers like their customers. You don't like being talked to as a customer. Don't you hate it? Doesn't it feel demeaning? Doesn't it just sound like you're a dollar sign? No. This is about empathy. Empathy is, I am not some CEO standing on the cover of my annual report telling you how great my company is. That's not empathy. Empathy is, who's the audience? What are they feeling? What are they processing on a day-to-day basis? Who's impacting their comprehension? That type of empathic human engagement absolutely becomes fundamental, not only for your customers, but for your employees, because empathy goes inside and out. It isn't just about your audience's understanding. It's also about the employees that are representing that belief. So that's the second rule. Third rule, advocate. Advocate means not only am I not you, and I respect that I'm here as a corporate executive and you're there as the consumer, all right, fine, but that doesn't mean that I can't love what you are. We saw Red Bull as an example earlier today. Let's take Red Bull. On the back of a Red Bull can, much like most consumer packaged goods, there's an 800 number, okay? So when I say Red Bull, you say vodka, right? I mean, that's what you correlate. Well, it turns out that Red Bull knows this, and even though the cans are small and the ingredients borderline toxic, it's purple, your heart races, it's got like bull testosterone in it, you know, whatever it is, whatever that is, please respect that what Red Bull has always been is not an Austrian company who follows Austrian rules and imposes that on the consumer. They are that. They are an Austrian company. But what they basically do is say, this is the consumer. You want us to jump out of a balloon? Great. We're going to jump out of a balloon. And on that 800 number on the back of the can, you know what people were doing? Like you do, partying really hard with their vodka and Red Bull and calling the 800 number totally tanked. Totally tanked. And be like, oh my God. And leaving incredible messages, you know, derogatory slurs, sexual suggestions, all of it. Now, what does advocacy look like in the new normal? Advocacy looks like in the new normal, Red Bull going, we're going to post this shit to Facebook. And they literally took all of the voicemails and let their Facebook fans rate the voicemails. Yeah, this sells product. Yeah, it sells product because, again, it isn't about your key performance indexes as an executive anymore. It's literally about who the audience is and how you are celebrating their lifestyle, the practices of their existence, okay? It's Every marketer has said this to another person in the room. It's not about us, right? Great. In the new normal, it's definitely not about you. In fact, I never want to hear out of any of your voices, well, I like, or, well, when I'm tweeting, I don't care. I don't care. You're not the customer. And let us free ourselves from that burden. Great. Next rule is, damn it, this is a relationship. This is not a transaction. It's never a transaction anymore. In fact, most of our companies don't make money on the first transaction. Our real profits show up transaction 2, 3, 10. Good. Do you like having a relationship with someone? They walk up to you, don't even ask you your name, reach out, shake hands, and say, great, I'm glad the deal is done. It's been good. No, I mean, in fact, it feels a little disgusting, doesn't it? A little disgusting? Yeah, good. It feels terrible to the consumer. It feels super, super gross. Okay? Can we make this about a relationship? Can we make it about you not asking me to like your Facebook page so you can get a bonus at the end of the quarter because there's enough likes? What the hell are you going to do with the like? What are you going to share with me? Why am I supposed to be here? That's the question you should be asking. Make it about building the relationship, not trying to access some KPI. All right, 5th rule. You all heard this word before. All you need to recognize is that in the old days of art, you had a, quote, curator. You had some guy rent some room in some shopping mall, and then he would go to some artist and be like, you know, I'm going to take your art and I'm going to curate it. I'm going to put it on these walls, and I'm going to hope some customer is going to come buy this from us. Well, you guys have seen Google Art Project. You've seen DeviantArt. This is no longer the way that art is curated. And when it comes to your product offerings, don't just put your product on some shelf in some room. No. We are not the same. All of us consumers are not the same. You need to curate for us. You need to package the things that are the most relevant to our specific lifestyle. Ford does not have one Twitter account. Ford has many Twitter accounts for their Mustang enthusiasts, their farmers who drive trucks, classic Ford believers whose fathers drove Fords. Different audiences, different types of curation. So your responsibility as a marketer is not, let me show you all of our wares all of the time. You know, like your information architectures on your website, it's like, really? You want me to click all these tabs and sort through all of this information? Come on. Please be more empathetic. I got stuff to do. I got kids to care for. I got a wife to love. I mean, come on. Be a little gentle about it, right? Curation is not just you selecting to your taste. It is an empathic understanding of your audience and just collecting the things that are most relevant to their needs in the moment. All right, 6th rule. 6th rule in the new normal is not only can you not just market, but in your voice, there must be learnings. There must be new understandings, new comprehension, because not only is commercialism in the midst of new normal, so is academia. So are our primary channels of learning. So when Tesla launches an electric car, by the way, it was just Sergey's birthday and they painted the Tesla pink. Did you hear about this ridiculousness? It was awesome. It was beautiful. When Tesla communicates, they're teaching us not about the Model S. They're teaching us about the future of transportation and how electric motors work, giving us all this information that may or may not apply to our transaction, but still, it makes us feel that this is not an organization trying to sell. This is an organization trying to teach. And we can receive that. We as innate learners, we can receive that information, and not only that, we're enthused to share it. How much more fun is it to say to your friend, guess what I learned today? You know what that feels like. Cool. All right, last rule, and then I'll get off the stage. Legitimately care, people. You know, just because your company did well this quarter and you got a little extra profit and you're going to scrape off some of it and donate it to a nonprofit, you know, that's not corporate social responsibility, okay? That's some executives taking a little less bonus this week. All right, what I'm talking about in the new normal is care reflected in action. You take your intellectual properties, your human capital, and you apply them to a real-world problem. Okay, for example, at Innovation Protocol, 10% of our time is allocated to serving nonprofits. That means all of our brand strategists, all of our researchers, all of our analysts are giving away 10% of every day to a nonprofit who in the new normal is having a hard time expressing itself. You have a talent that is so desperately in need as an organization for a nonprofit that as soon as you applied those skills, not only would you feel better about your job every day, but it would boost employee morale, and you could talk to your customers about it and they'd be proud. Okay? In the new normal, it's about real organizations. What's an organization but a collection of humans? Right? You know, in business to business, it's not business doing business with business. It's human in a business doing business with human in a business, right? So in the new normal, you can't just put up a sign and say bye. It has to be supported by your intellectual and human capital investments. And that's the care that we need as consumers. So I want to close with a little educational fact here. I was in Boy Scouts when I was a kid, an Eagle Scout, and we had compasses, like some of you have had compasses. And the compass is pulled by a magnetic force in the sort of nether regions of the globe. Well, many of you have GPS, and so this has never been a challenge for you. But for those of us who've been navigating the globe for the last 600 years, what we were told north was not north. It was a magnetic pull, this force just around Greenland, where in, for example, New York right now, if you had a compass for the last 600 years, it didn't point at the North Pole, it pointed at Greenland. In fact, if you want to adjust your compass in this room, it's 14 degrees west that you need to head with your declination. This should shock you, because this whole time you were like, oh, that's north. That is north. No, I want to talk to you about true north. True north is the real north, the real honest-to-God point that you should use to navigate around the globe. And I believe that in the new normal, our only guiding principle should be true north. We don't get to deceive people with magnetic north anymore, you understand? We don't get to tell them that they're heading north when they're not really heading north. So in this time, with you as brand stewards, with this violent transparency as a comprehension that we will all not forget, we will remember this for the rest of our marketing lives. Let it be known that you took a stand. Let it be known that you didn't just try to sell. You chose to engage and advocate and empathize inside and outside your organization. You chose to live true north rather than magnetic north, and your customers will never, ever forget it. Thank you. Sure. Jim says we have time for questions. I think there's a roving mic. And I hope my ridiculous doodles served their purpose today. That's what you get to do on an airplane. Oh, there's a question in the back, please.
In your way of thinking, let's suppose we're competing with one or more other companies that has the same general target.
Yes.
How does differentiation between one brand and another play a role if you're largely just reflecting and curating for those targets?
So I've been lucky enough to serve multiple brands in the same sector, cross categories. And when an organization stands up and says, that competitor is just like us, they're wrong. Because maybe the product, the widget that you sell, the function of the widget may in fact create the same type of value, but in the end, we as consumers are not asking about the function of the widget. I mean, Intel has 80% of the processor market. Is Intel's processor better than AMD? No, it's not better. But emotionally, we feel compelled to have Intel inside because Intel has been so consistently different in its messaging, not necessarily in its product performance. So when you go about competitive analysis, don't say, well, they sell the same thing, so there's no chance here. Your perspective on that thing is going to be different. Your audience's perspective on it, the history of your employee base on that subject will be different. And those become the ingredients in the brand story you ultimately project. Good question. Was there a second? Is that good or bad?
We have to ask who's doing this well.
Who's doing this well? In fact, Jim brought up a really good example when we were chatting this week. Mini Cooper is a great example of this, okay? Mini is the pride of England. The British are really proud of that brand, despite it being owned by BMW, a German company, okay? And not only is it that they're proud of it, but my wife drives a hot chocolate-colored Mini Cooper, Okay, yeah. For one, it's called hot chocolate. But when you go on the test drive, one of the dealer representatives is with you, and you're driving around. And when you pull back into the parking lot, usually the engine is cooling. It's like seething. And so the dealer turns to you and says, "Just so you know, whenever you're in the midst of spirited motoring, your engine might cool off after you've shut the car down." He didn't say when you're driving so fast, and he was like, "Oh no, this is about motoring. This is about the spirit of motoring in this day and age, and we're just suggesting that if you're spirited in your motoring, that your engine might need to cool." Instead of turning to my wife and saying, "Damn it, if you drive real fast, the engine's going to get hot and it's going to start seething, so let me tell you about all the technical details." That wouldn't have been what she wanted to hear about, right? She has not forgotten spirited motoring. Right? Okay? Remember, it's just a car. Just got wheels and brakes and leather that you can get on any other vehicle. No, it's something that she's emotionally attached to that makes her happy to drive every day, even though it's technically just a widget. I think Minnie's a great example of someone who gets that it's not just about the topic of driving, of motoring. It's the philosophies around it and the belief system that they've constructed that define the consumer's relationship with the brand. Hi. I'll repeat what you say. Yes.
May or may not have an orientation anywhere near this.
Yes.
What are some of the first things that you would recommend people do to try to infuse this kind of thinking in what they do on a day-to-day basis?
Great. So the question really is about how do we take these types of philosophies and bring them back to our fairly traditional organizations? Well, I think that your fairly traditional organizations sent you here because they realize something's different. Something's a little weird now, and we need new information and new practices, right? What's nice about this type of philosophy is it's rooted in truth. I'm not making anything up. This isn't some journal article I'm trying to write. You recognize that in your consuming life, go to the executive that you think is going to be the most dissenting and ask that individual about the purchase behaviors that they execute. And they're going to rationalize their Mercedes to you to the nines. They're going to tell you that it's biggest and safest and it's German engineered. And listen, Mercedes-Benz has cars that have just as many issues as every other manufacturer. In 2003, a Mercedes-Benz was one of the most lemoned cars in US history. That doesn't stop your chief executive from wanting to drive one, right? It's about how he or she feels in the car, what it says about them as an executive to have one. So you have to parlay it into an analogy that relates to that decision maker and just take this common topic and a belief system and articulate it in their terms. And that's what you have to do for your consumer anyway. Practice it on your leadership. Good question. Well, I know that we're going to be hanging out later tonight, isn't that right?
Yep.
So I'm happy to answer one-on-one questions should we be together. So thank you for the time.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Very good. Excellent, excellent. All right, love that. So I think this brings our morning to an end. And I think at this point, we all should have a really clear idea of what we mean by this new normal and what makes Gen Z tick. I think the key questions that I took away from Sasha were, if the consumer were to say to you in a one-on-one setting as a brand steward, "I'm listening, what do you want me to know?" And if that answer is biggest, loudest, fastest, bestest, that's not going to get it done to Gen Z in the new normal. So what is your belief system around what topic? Right? Just like Katie asked, what are your verbs? Just like Kim showed you that she was doing with all those examples around the globe for J&J. So I think it was a terrific connective tissue morning where you saw a practitioner, we unpeeled the target, and now we saw a belief system around branding. And as the professor said, that is what brand building is in the new normal. And so with that, we will do a break for lunch at this point. So we will have lunch on this floor when